God makes a way. Moses and the Red Sea, from Exodus 14 and 15. So Moses and God's people escaped out of Egypt and into the wilderness. They didn't know the way, but God knew the way, and He would show them. I will bring you to a new home, a special land. God promised them, I will look after you. I am with you. God saw a big cloud and sent it to follow them, a pillar of smoke stretching up to the sky. It moved in front of them as they walked and shaded them from the blazing heat of the day. And when it was time to rest, it stopped. All through the cold desert nights, it kept them warm, glowing like fire. God led His people through the desert to the edge of a great sea. They were just wondering how they were going to cross it, when suddenly they heard a terrible thundering, pounding noise. It sounded almost like horses' hooves. They shaded their eyes to look back, and they screamed, "Oh, it was Pharaoh and his army. They were coming to get them." Pharaoh had changed his mind again. "Get my slaves back," he screeched, and he charged out into the desert after them with 600 of his fastest horsemen. And every single chariot in Egypt was there. What were God's people going to do? In front of them was a huge sea. It was so big that there was no way around it. But there was no way through it either. It was too deep. They didn't have any boats, so they couldn't sail across. And they couldn't swim across because it was too far and they would drown. And they couldn't turn back because Pharaoh was chasing them. They could see the flashing swords now glinting in the baking sun, and the dust clouds and the chariots after scary chariots surging towards them. So they did the only thing that there was left to do. They panicked. "We're going to die," they said. They were so afraid. "Don't be afraid," Moses said. "But there's nothing that we can do," they screamed. "God knows that you can't do anything," Moses said, "but God will do it for you. Trust Him and watch." "But there's no way out," they cried. Another minute and it wouldn't have worked. It would have all been over. But then the strangest thing happened. God made the pillar of smoke move. It moved behind the people, and it hid them from the Egyptians. And then God sent a strong east wind to blow all night long, and it blew the water on the big sea. It blew to the left and it blew to the right until it blew into two towering walls of water. And then, right through the middle of it, a muddy pathway opened up, and God's people walked across on dry land. When the Egyptians tried to follow, the walls of water crashed back down on them, and it swallowed them up. God's people were safe. They danced and they laughed and they sang and they thanked God. When there had been no way out, God had made a way. Many years later, once again, God was going to make another way. A way where there was no way. From the beginning, God's children had been running from Him and hiding. God knew His children could never be happy without Him. But they couldn't get back to Him by themselves. They were lost. They didn't know the way back to God. but God knew the way, and one day he would show them.